At first, this looks like just another reaction. Still, silent, completely ordinary. Nothing moves, nothing stands out, until something small begins to change. A single drop enters the system, and everything starts beneath the surface. And then, it begins to move. A wave spreads outward, not like a ripple, but like a signal. It changes everything it passes through, leaving a trace behind. And then, another wave appears, as if the system resets itself, repeating again and again, with a rhythm that feels almost alive. Each wave interacts with the ones before it, never simply passing through. When they meet, something unexpected happens. They don't cross, they cancel, creating boundaries like invisible barriers inside the liquid. But the system doesn't stop. It continues to generate motion. Multiple sources appear, each sending signals across the system. And together, they create something far more complex. Until suddenly, a new structure forms. A rotating wave that sustains itself. Not fading, not stopping, but continuing on its own. And now, the system begins to behave differently. Now the system reveals its true behavior. Not a single wave, but many, interacting at once. When two waves meet, they don't pass through each other, they vanish. Every interaction leaves a mark, creating invisible structures across the system. And as the wave travels, its shape adapts to the environment. It avoids regions it has already passed, as if it remembers. And new waves can be triggered, clued by the interactions themselves. Now the system becomes active everywhere, multiple signals spreading at once. From instability, a spiral suddenly forms. A self-sustaining source, continuously generating new waves. At its center, a stable core controlling the entire motion. And now, another spiral appears, with its own rhythm. When these systems interact, their behavior becomes even more complex. Follow just one wave, and you'll see how it navigates through chaos. It accelerates, slows down, adapting to everything around it, even splitting and merging when paths reconnect. At the smallest scale, the wave exists only at a thin boundary. Behind it, the system is already changed. In some cases, waves synchronize, forming ordered structures. For a moment, everything aligns. And then, that order breaks. A new signal emerges, where nothing was happening before. Now, two dynamics overlap, reshaping the entire system. The result, a constantly evolving network of motion. All of this emerging from a simple chemical process. What you just saw may feel unpredictable, but it follows very precise rules. Each wave exists only at a thin boundary where the reaction is actively happening. Behind it, the system is already changed and can't react the same way again. That's why waves can't pass through each other. They meet and disappear, leaving behind boundaries that shape everything that follows. And sometimes, those boundaries create new waves. Over time, the system slowly resets, regaining its ability to react again. But not instantly, which changes how new waves behave. This creates gradients, areas that respond differently depending on their state. And those differences bend the waves, changing their direction and speed. This is how spirals form from broken wavefronts that begin to rotate. Once formed, they become self-sustaining sources of motion, continuously sending waves throughout the system. When multiple sources exist, their interactions define the overall behavior. Eventually, the system slows as fewer regions remain able to react. What remains is the trace of everything that happened before. Now change the system, just slightly, and everything behaves differently. In a more reactive environment, waves become faster and more defined. Instead of expanding outward, they align into traveling bands, moving together like a synchronized system. Even small disturbances can reshape the entire pattern. Now increase resistance inside the system. Waves slow down, spreading more gradually through the medium. Spirals still form, but move with a completely different rhythm. Larger, slower, but just as persistent. And when they interact, the system evolves more gradually. Now push the system to its limit. Everything becomes unstable. Waves appear everywhere. Small spirals form and disappear almost instantly. A constantly changing field where nothing stays the same for long. Bands, spirals, chaotic waves, all emerging from the same rules. Different behaviors, but the same underlying system, driving everything you see. Now it looks almost calm again, as if everything has settled into place. But this stillness is only an illusion. Because even now, motion continues at the smallest scale. Beneath what you see, the system is constantly changing. What looked chaotic was actually a process building order. Simple rules, repeated over time, creating something that feels almost alive. Waves that collide, interact, and reorganize themselves. All of this started from something that looked completely still. And once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Because even simple reactions can behave in ways that feel almost alive. But what if these systems didn't just move? but started to interact with light. What if the reaction didn't just create motion, but began to shape light itself? Not just reflecting it, but guiding it, focusing it, amplifying it, until suddenly. Light doesn't just pass through the system, it's generated from within. In the next video, you'll see how microscopic systems can create their own lasers. Subscribe and don't miss it.